The chair calls to order the virtual work session, State of South Fulton, Georgia, Tuesday, October 12th, 2021 at 4 p.m. Roll call, Mr. Clerk, please.
Roll call. The Honorable William Bill Edwards, Mayor.
Here.
The Honorable Catherine F. Ryle, District 1. The Honorable Carmelita Gums, District 2.
Present.
The Honorable Helen Z. Willis, District 3.
Present.
The Honorable Naima Gilliard, District 4.
Present.
The Honorable Corey A. Reeves, District 5.
Accounted for.
The Honorable Councilmember Khalid, District 6. The Honorable Mark Baker, District 7. And I believe Councilmember Ryle is coming into the meeting. Mr. Mayor, you do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. First presentation, please.
First presentation is the City of South Fulton Wastewater Capacity Study. This will be presented by David Clark, who serves as the Fulton County Public Works Director. Mr. Clark.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It's good to see everybody, at least virtually. Again, it's been a little while since I've been able to address the City Council. Also with me is Rebecca Lindsay. We're going to tag team on this presentation. I know you're under some time constraints today, so we'll keep it moving. But Rebecca Lindsay is our senior engineer with Gresham Smith, who helped us with the study itself. Next slide, please. So really, the purpose of the South Fulton capacity study that we completed last year was really to look at the entire South Fulton County area, including the city of South Fulton, to make sure that we are positioning our infrastructure to accommodate the growth that is planned for the South Fulton area and the city of South Fulton in particular. Next slide. Like any study, we followed a fairly, I think, typical process. We met several times with each individual city to talk about their comp plans, their economic development plans, and their long-term growth projections for their areas. From that, we developed future flow projections, which are based on that growth between now, 2020, all the way through 2059. We had an existing computerized model that was last updated in 2007. So we updated that to relate to current conditions, and then we used those model flows to actually look at what the future needs of the system was going to be. We came up with 4 separate decades, 2020 through 29 list of projects, 2030 through 39 second list of project, 40 through 49, and then 50 through 59. And one nice thing that we did about our project, the study, was we wanted to make sure it was flexible. So as areas develop more quickly, we can move things further up into the model, into the plan. And as things develop less quickly, as some anticipate, we can move things back into a later year. And we've put this all into a study that we have now published, and it's actually on our website. If anybody wants a copy, we can certainly work through the clerk and get you a copy. Next slide, please. What we show here is the population and flow projections that we developed working with the City of South Fulton staff for the City of South Fulton. This does not represent the entire South Fulton area that we serve with our wastewater service, but just the City of South Fulton. You can kind of see the City of South Fulton, as you well aware, are positioning themselves for quite robust growth over the next 30 years. And so these are the numbers that we used and came up with the various flows. Right now, the City of South Fulton is generating a little under 9 million gallons a day of wastewater. And then we expect that to increase all the way up to 15.5 million in 2050. And then there's always a peak flow number that we add because of certain peak events that happen during the year. So we want to make sure that we are sizing the system to handle not only the daily flow, but those peak flow events as well. And so this just gave you a snapshot of what we use to develop the South Fulton projects. Next slide, please. I think everybody recognizes that our city actually, our system serves all of the cities with the exception of Hapeville in South Fulton. So everything from East Point, College Park, Union City, Fairburn, City of South Fulton, Palmetto, and a small section of Chattahoochee Hills all flow eventually into our Camp Creek facility and is treated there. Next slide, please. What we're showing here is our main system that we do have existing in place. And these are pipes that are sizes 12 inches and larger. Anything that's 12 inches and larger is considered our trunk system that we certainly construct and upgrade as needed. The 8-inch lines that feed the trunk system are traditionally built by developers as part of subdivisions or commercial properties that they extend their system of 8-inch lines to our system of 12-inch lines, and then we take over the maintenance and operation from that point forward. So with that, I would like to introduce Rebecca, and she can talk a little bit more specifically about the planning study that we did. Next slide, please.
Sure. Thank you, David. So as David mentioned, we started out with a 2007 hydraulic model, and we updated that. The original model had did not have all the pump stations, so we updated it to include the 13 existing stations that were in the model, plus 8 new pump stations, as well as 12-inch in diameter and greater lines that are throughout South Fulton, and the force mains and everything that feeds into Camp Creek water reclamation facility, essentially. So it excludes any city-owned infrastructure or anything smaller than 8 inches in diameter or smaller. So this slide illustrates the engineering criteria that we use in the hydraulic model assessment. We ran hydraulic model scenarios for 4 simulations: 2020, which is the current day simulation, modeling that decade, 2030, 2040, and 2050. So for each of those scenarios, we were looking for certain engineering criteria to identify what infrastructure needed to be replaced or upsized. And I'll go through this. The pump stations, we looked at the firm pumping capacity, ideally to meet the 2050 max flow, and in cases that required a couple upsizes of the pump station to meet that 2050 demand. Force mains, we wanted to maintain velocity 2 to 10 feet per second. So these are the pipes that are leaving the force mains. Gravity sewers are, they follow topography, they flow downstream. These are the flows that go into pump stations, and we wanted to maintain those at less than 75% full. Within the city of Chattahoochee Hills, it was a little unique because there were some regional pump stations and new force main extension to provide sewer to that city. And city of South Fulton is also unique because Fulton County maintains the sewers within the city of South Fulton. So this was primarily the extension of gravity sewers with manholes at 400-foot spacing to allow O&M, and this follows topography. And there was also some proposed force main where there was increasing topography where we had to go up gradient that's identified in the model according to build out conditions. Next slide, please, Mr. Adams. Using the numbers that David portrayed earlier that we obtained from the city of South Fulton, as well as all of the other cities that we met with in these individual meetings, we compiled these future flow projections. We show here a line for Fulton direct customers, and that is largely the city of South Fulton. City of South Fulton is a Fulton direct customer. The remainder of that balance would be Fulton Industrial Boulevard, some Fairburn warehouses, and some unmetered housing in Union City, and a few more small meters. So of that total that you see there on that bottom row for Fulton direct customers, the city of South Fulton is about 7.5 million gallons in 2020, 8.8 million gallons of the 12 shown in the 2030 decade, about 10.5 million gallons in 2040, and 12.7 of that total in 2050. So again, the city of South Fulton is the primary contributor to that Fulton direct customers row shown in this table. And these flows were, based on the near-term growth on actual developments forecasted by South Fulton, and then looking further out based on population projections. Next slide, please. So the next 4 slides are going to illustrate the results of the modeling, which according to those engineering criteria I presented earlier, identified where there might be bottlenecks in the system, where upgrades or upsizing were needed. You're looking now at the 2020 to 2029 decade, and you'll see these graphically by decade. So the infrastructure in green, once again, is everything existing, and the infrastructure in blue is everything that is to be replaced, upsized, new, or upgraded in the terms of pump stations. So across the whole planning horizon, the study projects a total of over 122,000 feet of gravity pipe and 34,000 feet or more of that is upsizing due to lack of hydraulic capacity. Additionally, there's more than 92,000 feet of force main, 3 pump station upsizing, and 8 new pump stations proposed. So in the 2020 decade that you see here, it's a largely new force main and 7 new pump stations in Chat Hills. The remainder, substantially in the city of South Fulton, is over 12,000 linear feet of gravity sewer and then 2 upsized pump stations. Next slide, please, for 2030. So in 2030, we're showing over 10,000 feet of upsized gravity sewer. You can see that in purple here. Over 96,000 feet of new gravity sewer, some new force main extensions, 1 new pump station, 1 upsized pump station. Next slide, please. The 2040 decade shows over 10,000 feet again of new gravity sewer, over 14,000 feet of upsized gravity sewer, and 6 upsized pump stations in that decade. And the final decade slide, please, 2050. So again, here within the city of South Fulton, we extended gravity sewers to reach into areas that were unserved currently, and for the majority of the city of South Fulton, the extensions were serviceable by gravity flow. So those pipes were added into the model as 8 inches in diameter initially, and they were simulated with 2050 decade flows, and we iterated from that point, upsizing the pipe until we identified a diameter that would sustain the 2050 diameter flows with that engineering threshold of 75% full. So this final decade represents over 9,000 feet of upsized gravity sewer and 2 upsized pump stations. Next slide, sir. This is a summary of the dollar values. So we put together conceptual level planning costs for all of the projects that we identified in this study. We broke those out by planning decade. We also broke them out by drainage basin. So the sub basin that the sewer flows into. These dollar values are escalated according to inflation factor of 5% per year. So the dollar values that you see are in the year that dollar value would be incurred. Interestingly, the city of South Fulton actually intersects or overlaps all 10 of these drainage basins listed. So the city of South Fulton has improvements in every single one of the drainage basins shown there in the green font. And you see the grand total for each decade. So this is a 10-year spending horizon of 90 million roughly in the next decade, 137 million in the following, and so on. And as David pointed out earlier, the recommendations of the study are flexible and they can be adapted to where the growth occurs. And particularly in the cities of Chattahoochee Hill and South Fulton, so whether growth occurs at the anticipated pace or not. And we provided recommendations in the report for Fulton County to conduct targeted flow monitoring, pump station capacity evaluation, and model input data refinement to track the growth in South Fulton as it occurs and make sure that these improvements move into the detailed design phase as they need to occur. With that, David will cover next steps on the next slide.
Thanks, Rebecca. The pay for all this improvements that we have identified. We're probably about 80% done with that. Once we get a little bit further, we're going to have another round of meetings with each of the individual cities to talk to them about their citizens. We would and plan on anticipating implementing the new rate so we can start installing the projects as soon as we possibly can. And then we will finally start looking at the evaluation to increase the expansion of the Camp Creek facility. I think most of you know that facility is permitted to treat 24 million gallons a day, 2030. But by the mid part of 2030 decade, we really need a larger facility. And so we're actually going to start the design process for that in about 2025. So we're ready for the growth when it happens. So with that, I'll certainly turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clark and Ms. Lindsay. I have in the queue Ms. Gilliard.
Thank you. A few questions. And the basic one is the one that I've had ever since August of 2020. And it was exactly how did our city, and this is really a city question, how our city came up with the development projections, which, includes population. So that has a lot to do with the growth that we are anticipating. The council has never seen any of that information. So that's something that we need to have in order to make a decision. That's one thing. The second thing is that I was glad to hear that 24 million gallons per day is enough to get us through a certain period of time. So we have a time issue there, but then it's the pumps and all of the other pipes, I guess, that need to be expanded. The critical question is, who's going to pay for this? And I remember, Mr. Clark, there is a waste treatment facility in North Fulton that citizens were going to have to pay $3.50 per month when that expansion occurred. I just don't remember the name of the facility, but so I'm wondering who's going to pay for it, and exactly where the pump stations will be constructed to accommodate the growth. And basically, it's some areas in the city, including mine, but there are others where there's absolutely no sewer whatsoever. And so, in looking at the map, where I don't see any green lines or any pipes going anywhere or any round circles, and it's really on the furthest, the west, southwest part of the city, that I don't see where sewer is planned up to 2040 or 49, whatever. So those are my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gilliard. Mr. Clark, do you want to respond?
Sure. The rate study that we plan, which I believe you're